Salam and good day. Welcome to today's news roundup from Zeer News 24. It's Tuesday, the 27th of Jaza, 4404 in the Afghan calendar, corresponding to 17 June 2025. I'm Shabnam Waziri bringing you the latest national and international headlines. Deputy PM Maulawi Abdul Salam Hanafi attends 9th China-South Asia Forum. Renewed pledge to restart MES AINAC project. UN. Nearly 9 in 10 Afghan women lack access to education, employment, or training. Oil contract with China's U-20 cancelled due to repeated violations. Iran launches 30 missiles at Israeli intelligence and military sites. Israeli forces kill 45 Palestinians queuing for aid in Khan Yunis. Now the details. Deputy Prime Minister for Administrative Affairs, Maulawi Abdul Salam Hanafi, has traveled to China, leading a senior emirate delegation, following an official invitation. According to the Presidential Palace, Hanafi will participate in the 9th China-South Asia Expo and Forum, where he is expected to deliver a speech and hold bilateral meetings with Chinese officials to discuss strengthening ties. Before departing, Hanafi also met with Chinese Ambassador Zhao Xing and his delegation in Kabul. The ambassador said Chinese companies are keen to invest in Afghanistan and stressed that work on the MES AINAC copper project would resume soon, further enhancing economic cooperation between the two nations. UN. Almost 90% of Afghan women excluded from education, work, and training. The UN Women Gender Index report on Afghanistan describes the country as having one of the widest gender gaps globally, particularly since the current administration came to power. According to the findings, Afghan women are far behind global benchmarks for human development. The report highlights a 76% gender gap in areas such as health, education, financial inclusion, and decision-making. Only 17% of Afghan women are able to fully utilize their potential, far below the global average of 60.7%. It adds that 78% of young Afghan women neither study, work, nor receive vocational training, nearly 4 times higher than men. While 24% of women participate in the workforce, 89% of men do. Additionally, 74% of women spend significant time on unpaid domestic work, compared to just 3% of men. STFA receives nearly $37 million in aid for 2024. The Special Trust Fund for Afghanistan, STFA, reports it received $36.92 million in 2024 from 8 donor countries, a 33% increase from $27.81 million in 2023. However, the fund has raised concerns about declining humanitarian aid, especially as rising numbers of Afghan returnees from Iran and Pakistan are expected in 2025. Many of these families will require essential services such as shelter, food, livelihood support, and protection. The STFA warns that without renewed international cooperation and consistent funding, recent development gains could be at serious risk. Afghanistan's foreign trade continues despite regional tensions. Despite growing tensions in the region, Afghanistan's Ministry of Industry and Commerce says the country's foreign trade remains stable, and all border crossings are fully operational. Imports are flowing regularly, customs operations continue smoothly, and there has been no major shift in market prices. Officials say trade-related issues are being addressed swiftly, and market supplies remain steady. The ministry has urged the public to remain calm and not fall prey to rumors, assuring that contingency plans are in place for any future risks. Trade routes with neighboring countries remain open and secure. Oil deal with Chinese firm U-20 cancelled over repeated breaches. The Ministry of Mines and Petroleum has cancelled its oil exploration and production contract with Chinese firm U-20, citing continuous violations. Following a detailed review by a special committee, the ministry concluded the company had failed to meet its contractual obligations. Legal and technical evaluations are now underway, and international consultancy firms are being invited to participate in further assessments, particularly for financial reconciliation and technical reassessment of the Amu Darya oil zone. That concludes the national news segment. Now, over to our colleague Ozair Safi with the latest international developments.
Salam, I'm Ozair Safi with the latest international developments. Stay with us as we take you through the key stories of the hour. Iran launches 30 missiles at Israel. Strategic targets hit. Iran has launched 30 ballistic missiles targeting various parts of Israel, including Tel Aviv. Key sites such as the headquarters of Israel's Unit 8-200, intelligence and military buildings, and an 8-story structure in Herzliya were hit. According to Iranian media, the strikes were planned to hit strategic locations. Al Arabiya, citing Israeli sources, confirmed that targets included Israel's Ministries of Defense and Economy, intelligence centers, Ben Gurion Airport, Tel Aviv's financial district, and key sites in Haifa. Israeli officials reported at least 10 civilians were injured while seeking shelter during air raid sirens. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claimed that several high-ranking members of Iran's security establishment, especially from the military and IRGC intelligence, have been killed. Israel alleges the death of General Shadmani, head of Iran's Qatama Anbiya command, describing him as one of Ayatollah Khamenei's closest and most strategic military advisors. Netanyahu stated that these actions are not just defensive, but aimed at reshaping the region's security order, adding, "This campaign will continue until Iran abandons its nuclear ambitions and regional interference." Russian President Vladimir Putin reacted strongly to the Iran-Israel conflict, accusing the US and its allies of hypocrisy. He stated that while the West justifies Israel's right to self-defense, it denies that same right to Iran. Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. If they ever develop them, it would be for defense, not aggression, Putin said. He added that the US and Israel already possess nuclear arsenals, yet continue to threaten other nations. Putin warned that if hostilities escalate, Russia could consider supplying weapons to Iran. He also criticized Israeli attacks on multiple countries and highlighted the suffering in Palestine, saying, "Palestinians have no nuclear weapons, yet tens of thousands have been killed." He insisted that if Israel has the right to self-defense, so should Iran, especially now that the threats are directed at Iran, not Israel. Israeli strike kills 45 Palestinians waiting for aid in Khan Yunis. Gaza's health ministry has reported that at least 45 Palestinians were killed and dozens more wounded in an Israeli attack while waiting for humanitarian aid in Khan Yunis. The Israeli military struck an area where civilians were gathered to receive food and supplies. Rescue teams have reached the scene, but many injured have yet to be evacuated due to ongoing shelling. Local officials say most of the victims were women, children, and elderly people with no ties to militant groups. Israel has not issued a formal statement, although it has repeatedly denied targeting civilians. The humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to deteriorate, with aid agencies warning of worsening hunger, disease, and lack of assistance. Russia strikes Kiev as G7 summit opens, with pressure on Moscow. Officials in Kiev reported that Russian drone and missile strikes hit the Sviatoshinsky and Solomiansky districts overnight, injuring at least 20 people. The attacks coincided with the G7 summit in Canada, where global leaders, including Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, are discussing further pressure on Moscow. Zelensky is appealing for increased support, while US President Trump has claimed the war might have been avoided if Russia had not been expelled from the G8. Islamic nations called for end to Israeli strikes on Iran. A coalition of Arab and Islamic countries has urged an immediate halt to Israeli attacks on Iran, warning that continued conflict will destabilize the region further. In a joint statement released by Qatar's foreign ministry, the group called for dialogue, diplomacy, and respect for UN principles. They urged both sides to de-escalate and commit to peaceful solutions, warning that the conflict could spill over into a broader regional war. The statement called on the international community to take a clear and active role in preventing further escalation. Trump cuts G7 trip short for emergency national security meeting. President Donald Trump is returning to Washington ahead of schedule from the G7 summit in Canada. According to Fox News, he has called for an emergency National Security Council meeting to address rising tensions between Iran and Israel. He's expected to depart immediately after the G7 dinner and has instructed the White House to prepare response scenarios for possible escalation in the region. US and UK announced new trade deal amid ongoing tariff disputes. President Trump and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a new trade deal during the G7 summit. Under the agreement, the UK can export up to 100,000 vehicles annually to the US at a 10% tariff, while tariffs on aerospace and aircraft sectors will be lifted. However, disagreements remain over steel, aluminium, and pharmaceutical goods. The US insists that such exports must not threaten national security if tariffs are to be waived. Trump hailed the deal as a major step forward, and Starmer called it a new chapter in UK-US economic cooperation.
Mariano Volleyball Club wins friendly tournament in Paktia. A 9-day friendly volleyball tournament in Zermatt district of Paktia province, featuring 16 teams, concluded with Mariano Club taking the championship. In the final, Mariano edged out Calago Club 3-2 to lift the trophy. Zulfikar Football Club emerged as champions of a 12-day tournament held in Argun district. They secured the title with a 2-0 win over Arafat Club in the final match. Cricket Board reports progress on Rahmat Wali Masrur Stadium. Afghanistan Cricket Board, ACB, has announced that development work on Rahmat Wali Masrur Cricket Stadium is moving ahead with full momentum. In a recent update on its X, formerly Twitter, page, ACB noted that the project is part of a broader initiative to build 4 major regional cricket grounds in Kandahar, Nangarhar, Khost, and Kunduz. So far, the stadium has gone through several construction phases, including land preparation and academy setup. Upcoming stages will include installation of seating, viewing stands, and floodlights for night matches. That wraps up today's news bulletin. Don't forget to follow Zeer News 24 on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube for your daily updates. Until tomorrow, take care and goodbye.